السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the fiqh of worship, and last time we talked about the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and from the book of الدروس المهمة الدروس المهمة لعامة الأمة by Sheikh رحمه الله. And the second thing, or the second pillar of Al-Iman, is the belief in the angels. And as mentioned before, we many times, most of everyone here, they heard it many times. But the purpose of this is like become a syllabus in which we have all the different meanings that we need to have with these pillars of Al-Iman and pillars of Al-Islam, so that we can also teach it as a syllabus to our children and things like this. So he says, الدرس الثالث. This is still, we are in the third dars, or the third lesson. أركان الإيمان وهي ستة, which is 6 pillars of الإيمان. أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر وتؤمن بالقدر خير وشر من الله تعالى. The 6 pillars of الإيمان. And الإيمان بالله, we talked about the 3 things: the oneness of Allah in His rububiyyah, in His lordship; the oneness of Allah in His uluhiyyah, the one to be only worshipped; and the oneness of Allah in His names and attributes. When it comes to the pillar of to believe in the angels, I want you, inshallah, if you pay attention to the points that we mentioned very briefly here. What do we need to have? Otherwise, there are so many different things that we can talk about. And we only go through the wahy, it's revelation from Allah, because this is a matter of unseen to us. So it's not up to an individual to decide what to say and what not to say. So just particular specific points. First of all, the first point is, and if you can record this, we need to memorize this. Once you talk about angels, you have all of these points together if you can. The first one, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them from a nur, from light. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, خَلَقْتُ الْمَلَائِكَ مِن نُور. That the Prophet, أو خُلِقَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ مِن نُور, that the angels have been created from light. And that's sufficient for us, right? What nur, what light, things like this. We just take it the way it's mentioned, like that. The second point is that they are a mighty creation of Allah. So, and as it will be mentioned, they have angels that are in charge of the hellfire and things like this. So they are mighty creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are many hadiths about this, one of which is the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam seeing Jibreel alayhi salam in his original form. As he said alayhi salatu wasalam, that he saw him twice. And he said in his description, سَادًا عِظَمُ خَلْقِهِ مَا بَيْنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, that how great his creation is, that it fills what's between the heavens and the earth. It fills between what's in heavens and the earth. And in some of the narrations, that he saw him with 600 wings. And one of these wings was, or the tip of one of these wings, Jibreel alayhi salam destroyed the towns of the people of Lut. The Hamalat al-Arsh, the angels, those who carry the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, between the ear of one of them to his shoulder is a traveling distance 700 years, as it's mentioned in Surah Abi Dawud. And this is, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows this. So this is mighty creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have, the different descriptions of what the angels they have. The Quran talks about wings, and as we heard in the hadith about Jibreel alayhi salam having 600 wings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alhamdulillah fatir as-samawati wal ard ja'il al-malaikati rusulan uli ajnihatin mathna wa thulatha wa ruba'. They have wings. They are beautiful creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Jibreel, علمه شديد القوى ذو مرة فاستوى, that Jibreel alayhi salam has a beautiful appearance with so much power and might. So this is some of the narrations that talks about them. The angels are not all in the same level. So again, as the ayah says, some have 2 wings, 3 wings. Jibreel alayhi salam has 600 wings. And each angel has their own specific position or level. وَمَا مِنَّا إِلَّا لَهُ مَقَامٌ مَعْلُومٌ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them, the angels were saying that each one of us have their own specific known status or level. And one of the best types of angels are those who witnessed the battle of Badr with the Prophet ﷺ. When Jibreel ﷺ came to the Prophet ﷺ, in the hadith in Sahih Bukhari, and he said, "Who or how do you see the people of Badr among you?" So he said, "Min afdal Muslimin," from the best of the Muslimin. And then also he said, وَكَذَلِكَ مَنْ شَهِدَ بَدْرًا مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, and also those who witnessed the battle of Badr from the angels. Can we call the angels males or females or something like this? This is again a matter of unseen. So for people to start to talk about the unseen based on what they see with their own eyes, this is it's foolishness, it's ignorance. And part of al-Iman is that we purify ourselves from, with all due respect, but from this foolishness. It's a matter of unseen. We don't even ask when it comes to matters of unseen of how this and how is that. If it's not reported, then there's no need for it in this level, in this world that we live in. So it's, for the, as we know that the people of Quraysh, how they would kill their daughters when they're born, and they would claim that the angels are females. And this is how Shaitan, he deceived them. Because once a person starts to have a deviant belief, then the Shaitan doesn't leave the person alone. There'll be implications to this. And since therefore, he keeps on going with that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, and we don't say except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet ﷺ in the Quran and in the authentic Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The angels, they don't eat or drink. And this is, clearly stated in the angels, those who went to Ibrahim alayhi salam. They don't get married. They don't, things like this. They don't get tired. They're in constant worship of Allah. يُسَبِّحُونَ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ لَا يَفْتُرُونَ, constantly worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The number of the angels is something that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. And in the hadith of Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur, the house of worship that is the like of the Kaaba in this earth and it's in the heavens, the Prophet ﷺ, when he asked Jibreel ﷺ about this Bayt al-Ma'mur, he said, يُصَلِّ فِيهِ فِي كُلِّ يَوْمٍ 70,000 مَلَكٍ. Every day, 70,000 angels praise in it. لا يعودون إليه آخر ما عليهم. They don't return back to it anymore. So every day, 70,000 new angels. And there are so many hadith about the numbers of angels that are, it's beyond what we can even imagine. As far as we believe in all of the angels, whether we know them or whether we don't know them, we know some of the names of the angels, like Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel responsible for the wahy, and he's the best of all of the angels because he's responsible for the revelation to come down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's Mikael, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentioned him, من كان عدوا لله وملائكته ورسله وجبريل وميكال فإن الله عدو للكافرين. So this is Mikael. There is Israfil, which is the one responsible for blowing in the trumpet in the Day of Judgment. And the Prophet ﷺ would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying, Allahumma rabba Jibreel wa Mikael wa Israfil. Right? And Mikael is the one with the provisions. There is Malik, the keeper of the hellfire. وَنَادَوْا يَا مَالِكُ لِيَقْضِي عَلَيْنَا رَبُّكَ. There is Ridwan, as some of the hadith came with regards to the name of the keeper of Jannah. There is Munkar and Nakir, which is the ones that would ask the questions in the grave. There is Harut and Marut, which is mentioned in the Quran. about Sulaiman alayhi salam and the two angels, those who taught the sorcery. Is Raqib and Atid two angels, as we know from Surah Qaf? Some of the ulama, they said this is their names, but it has an attribute more than a name. So Al-Raqib is the one that is watcher, Al-Atid is someone that is mighty. This is something to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. They are honored, they are in state of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're always praised, of course, because they're in constant worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have the ability to be shaped in different ways and forms, as the angel came to Maryam, for example, or the angels, those who came to the Prophet Lut alayhi salam, and in the hadith of Jibreel when he came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and things like this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but this is not a subject that people can make a decision, or they would say this is how the angels, they come in our lifetime. Is that an angel? What does that look like an angel? All these things is a person to stay away from, and it's a matter of unseen to us. There's no such a thing as going slow or fast. Their way of going, ascending to the heavens and coming down, as we know the angels, those who record the deeds. And how do they record? And one on the right and one on the left. It's totally different way of unseen to us, and we submit ourselves to what has been revealed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and even the wahi that would come to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, how they come physically from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how the angels, they ascend and they descend every day. Human beings, they don't have that ability, and if they spend years and years to go from one place to the other, the matter is completely different to the angels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do all things. There's one of the beautiful hadith about how the angels, they speak to one another, especially with the matters that are not clear to them. When the hadith of اختصام الملأ الأعلى, that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in the dream, and he said, "Oh Muhammad, do you know what al-mala' al-a'la, the highest level of gathering, in which subject they are disputing or debating?" So the Prophet ﷺ, he said no. So فَوَضَعَ يَدَهُ بَيْنَ كَتِفَيْهِ, as the hadith, it's a matter of unseen. The hadith says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put his hand between the shoulders of the Prophet ﷺ, حَتَّى وَجَدْتُ بَرْدَهَا بَيْنَ ثَدْيَيْهِ, till to the extent of which I felt the coldness of it between the breast of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, فَعَلِمْتُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ, so I got to know what's in the heavens and what's in the earth. And once that happened, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the Prophet ﷺ again, "O Muhammad, هل تدري, do you know فيما يختصم الملأ الأعلى, what the highest level of gathering they are debating?" So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, yes, في الكفارات والدرجات. Look at, it's amazing how we get so ourselves busy with things in this life, when what the angels are busy with, what the angels are debating with one another in the highest level, where they are in the kafarat, in the expiations of the sins, and the darajat, the levels of elevation of goodness in the rewards. And wal-kafarat, and the kafarat, the expiations of the sins, al-mukthu fil masajidi ba'da as-salah, to stay in the masajid after the salah, al-mashyu al-aqdami al-jama'at, to walk to the jama'at, isbagh al-wudu'i fil makarih, to make the wudu in dislikes. You don't like to keep on making your wudu every time you break it, every time you go to the bathroom, do it. If it's cold, to constantly, or to be always in state of wudu. This is kafarat. This is all expiations of sins. Very simple deeds that we oftentimes might belittle them. And ad-darajat, or the high levels of deeds, ifsha'u salam, to spread the salam, it'amu ta'am, to feed others, was-salatu bil-layli wan-nas niyam, and to pray at night when people are asleep. And the hadith is a beautiful hadith in Sunan al-Tirmidhi. And when the Prophet ﷺ said that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, صدقت, you said the truth. وَمَنْ فَعْلَ ذَلِكَ, and inshallah we need to talk about this hadith and give a lecture just for this hadith. But the beautiful statement, وَمَنْ فَعَلَ ذَلِكَ عَاشَ بِخَيْرٍ وَمَاتَ بِخَيْرٍ. Whoever does this, what we just heard, he would live with khayr and he would die in khayr, in goodness. So if you want to live in goodness and die in goodness, to fulfill these kafarat, expiations and darajat. وَكَانَ مِنْ خَطِيئَتِهِ كَيَوْمِ وَلَدَتْهُ أُمُّهُ, and he will be from his sins the day as if his mother gave birth to him. That means without any sins. And he says, O Muhammad, إِذَا صَلَّيْتَ فَقُلْ, if you made salah, then say, اللهم إني أسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين وأن تغفر لي وترحمني وتتوب علي وإذا أردت بعبادك فتنة فاقبضني إليك غير مفتون. Oh Allah, I ask you to do what is good and to leave al-munkarat, sinful acts, and to love the masakin, the poor, and to forgive me and to have mercy upon me and to make me repent and to accept my repentance. And if you intend any fitna for the people, take my soul without being maftoon, without being affected by the fitna. So this is something, again, the shahid here, or what's mentioned here, that the angels, they discuss things with one another, and what other things that they're discussing, and what other things that we're discussing. And even when people talk about matters of deen, what are the priorities versus what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. So this is, something definitely for us to reflect upon. When we stand in the salah, right, the Prophet ﷺ said, أَلَا تَصُفُّونَ كَمَا تَصُفُّ الْمَلَائِكَ عِنْدَ رَبِّهَا, shouldn't you straighten your rows the same way the angels, they straighten the rows by the Lord? So they said to the Prophet ﷺ, O Prophet of Allah, the angels, they do that? He says, yes, يُتِمُّونَ الصُّفُوفِ وَيَتَرَصُّونَ فِي الصَّفِّ, they fill the rows and they fill the gaps. So this is, how the angels are. They are, as we heard, they're sinless. They don't make mistakes. They just fulfill the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their ibadah is constant, as we heard. And with all of the ibadah that they do from without stopping whatsoever, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Since when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them and till the day of judgment, and with all of this, they would say, Subhanaka ma abadnaka haqqa ibadatik. In the day of judgment, they would say, Subhana, glory be to you, O Allah. We did not worship you the way we ought to, the way that you deserve to be worshipped. And, which, subhanallah, how ignorant are the human beings. So they make tasbih, they do all these types of ibadah. And there are many hadiths in the subject, and that's why when we talk briefly here, we need to talk about it also in some details. When we look at the evidences in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, when it talks about the angels. And they have, of course, interaction with the human beings, whether it's, the angel comes down in the womb of the mother to write down the matters of decree for the child when he's in the womb of his mother, guarding the people in this life, as it's mentioned in the Quran. There is an angel that is always with the person to guard them while he's asleep, and that's why the muhassinat and the reciting the Quran and things like this, they make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the believers, and the hadith that talks about that when a person comes to the masjid and things like this. So many different hadith that talks about that, in which we need to do these good deeds that brings the dua from the angels to the believers. All of that is as a result of having the proper belief in the angels. They record everything that we say and what we do, and they even give advices to the human beings, but we get to know the truth of that by the wahy revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The shaitan has his whisper, and the angel has his lamma, or his way of communicating to advise the believers. There's the angel of death. So from the very beginning of one's creation, at the moment of death, the person would see the angels, whether it's the angels of mercy versus the angels of punishment, So the unseen becomes seen, meaning at the moment of death, and then onward afterwards with the punishment or the rewards, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are so many, again, hadith which is unseen to us, where they make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the believers, making ta'meen with the dua of the believers when they say ameen. When you visit a sick, the angels, they make dua. They ask Allah for forgiveness for the person that he goes to visit a sick. When a person eats suhoor, the angels, they make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for such a person. Hilaqu dhikr, the gatherings of knowledge, the angels, they get together and they surround these types of gatherings. Salatul Jumu'ah, so we are constantly witnessed and receiving things from the angels, and it's unseen to us. And these types of nusus, we need to have it present in our hearts, so that it helps the person to be steadfast upon the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, they protected the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. They fought with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. They witnessed the janazah of the righteous ones. They protect the Medina and Mecca, even when the Dajjal he comes. And we have duties to be observed, and that is not to harm them, even as when a person makes salah. This is why the person, when sins, it bothers the angels. The angels, they are bothered with what the son of Adam is bothered with. The bad smell and things like this, even if a person is alone. So there are many texts about this that needs to be observed. This is just briefly with matters of belief, to believe in them. They are created from light, mighty creation of Allah. They become different shapes. They are in state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe in all of them, in general and in specific. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from that. And inshallah, again, this is brief. We can give more and more time to these types of evidences that talks about the angels, inshallah. We'll stop here, inshallah, and continue next time. I'm not sure if we have time for questions. If there's any questions, then we'll keep it for the next session, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.